Hey, what's up everybody? Did you know that one of the highest predictors of financial success after IQ is our ability to focus? In the big 5 personality traits, that is called trait conscientiousness. Now, in the distracted world nowadays, many people struggle with that quality. Maintaining focus at work is a global problem, and it's getting worse with technology getting better and everyone fighting for your attention. So today, I'm going to give you ways to maintaining focus at work and 5 ways on how to get stuff done at work and school. The first thing I would recommend is to prepare your brain and body. Essentially, everything you're going to be doing is obviously going to be with your body, so you have to take care of it. Now, one of the first things I would say about managing your body is to take care of the stress. Now, stress is mostly caused by the stress hormone called cortisol, which essentially regulates our fight or flight mechanisms. And for that, we need optimal amounts, because too much will be overwhelming, but too little would be kind of like you don't really feel the need to do anything. And so we need the optimal amounts of cortisol. One good way of managing cortisol is cardio, because when you engage in cardiovascular exercises, exercises that get your heart rates up, it basically helps your body flush it out of your system. Now, we got to be very mindful that not all exercises are cardio. Now, I recently went to a workshop on personality, and one of the things that I learned is that yoga does not actually help you get rid of cortisol, right? It's cardio. What yoga does, however, is it helps you with mindfulness and calming yourself down and putting yourself in the right mindset. So I'm not saying that yoga doesn't work. What I'm saying is that yoga's utility is mostly on improving mindfulness and helping you get into the right mindset to handle your stress. On the other hand, if you want to flush it out completely, the way to do it is cardio. Another thing that I would highly recommend is to eat your breakfast. And I know it really sounds silly because you're like, okay, John, I'm watching your video and you're telling me to eat breakfast. It's kind of like, but you know what? One thing that is pretty common is that oftentimes we usually skip our breakfast. For example, you want to get that extra 15 minutes of sleep, so you keep hitting that snooze button. Eating a breakfast is really important because it gets you off the right foot on a day. And so getting off the right foot sets the tone for the rest of the day. It's just like the same mentality as making your bed in the morning so that everything's tidy and orderly, and so that the rest of the day you feel like you are more in control of it. So not only do you have to eat breakfast, you have to eat a high protein diet for breakfast. Because one thing that we know about eating is that cheap carbs will make you have sugar spikes. It makes your body have sugar rushes so that it spikes up and then it goes down right away, and so that you'll get a crash afterwards. That's why, when in the NBA, when Lamar Odom and Caron Butler and Dwight Howard, they came out and actually said that when they were playing in the NBA, right? Dwight is still in the NBA, but a lot of the other guys, when they were in the NBA, they're kind of known to be inconsistent players. And one reason that they found was because they snack a lot. They eat a lot of sugars. They eat a lot of Skittle. Who is it? I think it was Lamar Odom that has Skittles, and Caron Butler loves his Mountain Dew, and Dwight Howard just snacks all the time. And so eating these cheap carbs and cheap sugars give you sugar rushes, and it makes you highly inconsistent and also makes you crash. The next thing I would say in terms of taking care of body is exercising. Exercising, especially in the morning, increases your focus for the rest of the day. Like I said before, it helps get your cortisol out and it improves focus. I would actually recommend exercising more in the morning rather than the evening because, well, at least from my own experience, when I exercise in the evening, what happens is I get an adrenaline rush and I pretty much struggle to sleep at night. It actually cuts into my sleep. So for myself, I get up in the morning, I get the kids ready to school, I drive them to school, and then I go hit the gym right after. So doing it in the morning is the best because it helps you focus for the rest of the day and gets all your, all the jitters and all the movement that you need to get done out of the way so that you can sit down calmly and face what you have to do. And sleep is actually the next thing I want to talk about in terms of taking care of your body to increase your focus at work. Because if you don't sleep, it basically hurts your focus for the rest of the day. So did you know that moderate sleep deprivation is pretty much equivalent to being intoxicated? So staying up for 17 to 19 hours, that makes your head spin and you're tired. If you skip a whole day, it makes you legally incapable of driving. So getting a lot of sleep is obviously really important, and if you need, of course, get some caffeine. But what's even better is sleeping. And the last thing I would say about taking care of your body is have the correct ergonomics at work. So for myself, when I was doing my doctoral program at Oxford, one thing that I did was I was typing on my laptop all the time. And when I'm on my laptop, pretty much the de facto position, since the keyboard is on the laptop, it's going to be on the table and your arm's going to be like this, right? Essentially that makes you hunched over. And over time, what I realized was, hey, my back started hurting a lot, my neck started hurting a lot, and that wasn't very good for my productivity because, I didn't want to sit down. After that, I looked up some ergonomic stuff and I realized I was doing so many things wrong, right? First of all, like I said, the keyboard thing. The second thing is the laptop screen is actually, where the hands are. And so you're actually looking down all the time, which actually puts a strain on your neck. It's basically like looking at your iPhone all the time. And the third thing that I was doing wrong was my feet was not planted square on the ground. My knees were not 90 degrees. If you're sitting and you put your legs forward, basically what's happening is you're adjusting your pelvis so that it's leaning forwards, and what happens is you put a lot of strain on your lower back. So as a result of working like that, I started having a lot of lower back pain. So sitting in the right position is really important, and also stretching because of that, right? Because sitting all the time is going to take a toll on your body, so stretching is very important. If you want to learn more about stretching, you can learn more from this upcoming podcast that I have with my buddy Doug Ho. He runs a business called Kinetic Stretch in Hong Kong, where he basically teaches people how to stretch, and he's got this awesome methodology. And if you want to know when that video goes live, click the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you get notified. The second thing I would recommend is to create an environment that allows you to focus. Cal Newport wrote in his book Deep Work that nowadays, in an economy of innovation, what sets people apart is their ability to focus and hunker down and crunch out deep work. Innovation is not something that you can really improvise. You need to put deep work and deep thought into it. So one of the things that Cal Newport wrote about is Carl Jung. And Carl Jung, in the introduction of Cal Newport's book, he talks about how Carl Jung set up a situation so that he is hard to reach. So one of the things that you can do for yourself to create an environment to focus is basically be very hard to reach. So one thing that I did for my doctorate research when I was writing my PhD thesis is pretty much put my cell phone somewhere else because that distracted me. I also downloaded internet plugins like Waste No Time, which put a cap on the websites that I'm allowed to search. If you want to take it a step further, you can even get someone to password lock that Waste No Time plugin. So one thing that I did for a short time, not very long, is that I got my wife to put in a password for the Waste No Time app so that pretty much I got to sit down and focus. And once I finish the amount of work that I've committed myself to doing, I get her to come in to unlock the computer so that I can do my normal stuff. Another interesting thing about setting your environment is actually temperature. So from a 2004 study from Cornell University, they found that environments that are 20 to 25 degrees Celsius or 68 to 77 degrees Fahrenheit is optimal for working. From a 2006 study from Helsinki University, they found about 21.5 degrees Celsius or 71 degrees Fahrenheit is the best environment to work in and helps you focus the most. And the last thing I would recommend is music, right? Music fires up the brain. And so I would say choose music that you like that is not distracting. So for myself, I'm a musician by training. I play a lot of music. And one thing that I love is, it sounds really geeky, but I love video game music, especially like Final Fantasy music. I love the music written by Yasunori Mitsuda, who wrote the tracks for Xenogears or Chrono Trigger or Chrono Cross. Pretty much, and so I love that kind of music. And so when I'm working, one thing that I realize is that kind of music, the music that I'm familiar with, that actually distracts me and stops me from working because I just get focused on the music. Another thing that I find that really distracts me is music with lyrics, right? If there are lyrics in it, then it really bothers me, and I'm just like, and I start listening to the lyrics because I'm a very much of a words guy, and so I start paying attention to the lyrics and what they're saying, and it's actually a distraction too. So the best music that I find works for me is some, coffee house music, some bossa nova, some jazz, or even sometimes classical. Even though that's a little bit more rare. I still love video game music, but it's got to be video games that I am not familiar with. So I'd actually be interested to know what works for you, because what works for me may not work for you. Some people might like music that they're familiar with. So yeah, let me know in the comments below. I'm actually really curious about this one. The third thing I would recommend to help increase your focus at work is to not multitask. Essentially, science has shown that multitasking doesn't work. It actually gives you the illusion that you're doing a lot of work, but you're actually not doing a lot of work. What's actually happening is your brain, switching from one task to another actually uses up energy and essentially takes away from the limited pool that you already have. So switching tasks back and forth is actually a way to lie to yourself, so that you feel like you're doing work, but you're not actually doing a lot of work. So multitasking is an illusion. The science has shown that. So let's get that out of the way first. So once again, it goes back to the whole idea of shaping your environment, right? You gotta turn off the notifications on your phone, put on do not disturb, enter full screen mode, focus mode for different apps. So Microsoft Word has full screen mode, and so when I'm on Microsoft, I just blow that up and I just focus on that. One thing that I find that's really helped me was deleting games. Like, I still play video games, I'm a gamer, but I actually have a dedicated space for video games. So my PS4, I leave in the basement, and that's where I play my video games. And it allows me to actually reward myself because, anytime I'm in the basement, I'm playing the games that I love, and that they're high quality games. They're not like the, not saying gacha games are low quality, but they're a little bit more addicting, and the whole point is to stir the dopamine system so that you keep going back to them and eventually you pay them, right? And so I've actually fallen for one of those gacha schemes before where I forked out $99 for X amount of crystals so that I can get some super weapons. And after doing that once, I realized that's actually not a very good idea, and it's not actually a very good way to spend my money. So I made the conscious decision to delete that game. And if you're curious, it was Final Fantasy Record Keeper. Because I'm a huge Final Fantasy guy. After deleting that, it was interesting because I started realizing, hey, wait, it helps me get rid of all the other distractions I have. So I deleted a whole bunch of other games along the way. I would still go and download them once in a while just to get a taste of it. But after a while, once I feel like, okay, I'm getting addicted to it, boom, I make sure it's deleted. So for me, that's what helps me. That helps me, I can go play that game, but at the same time, I will not get addicted to it. And I kind of get the best of both worlds. And another thing that I find to really help with multitasking is to really block off your time in chunks. So my friend Rizam Hazmath, he got his PhD from Cambridge. He's a full professor, and he's in the social sciences, and he's one of the youngest ever to do it. He's super efficient, right? And I asked him, one time, hey man, how do you do it? And he's like, oh yeah, easy. For me, I just block off my time into chunks. So he has something called, early morning, late morning, and then he has early afternoon and late afternoon. And essentially those are 1.5 to 2 hour blocks. And he basically, in the morning, he uses 2 blocks, he sets goals, and he goes out to complete them. In the afternoon, he sets the goals, he goes out to complete them. By blocking off your time like that, it's a very simple way to organize your day and set out, this is what I'm going to do for this part of the day. And another recommendation I have is actually from a professor of mine who taught me qualitative methods, and her name's Amy Brown. She teaches at Penn. The book she recommended for me to read was called Clockwork Muse. And in Clockwork Muse, basically it tells you to set goals and blocks of time, similar to what I said about what Riza does. But however, one thing that I really like about Clockwork Muse is that it tells you to not write more than what you need. So for example, if you need to write 10,000 words, basically if you chunk that off into 40 days, you basically only have to write 250 words per day. And when you think about it that way, it's actually really easy to get to 10,000 words, right? A PhD thesis at Oxford, they cap it at 100,000. So if you were writing a PhD thesis at Oxford, it would be around 70 to 90,000 words, right? So for 40, if you need 40 days to get 10,000 words, basically if you want to get 70,000 words, you need 7 times 40, that's 280 days. So that's very much doable. And if you think about it's like 250 words is really just one page, right? So if you just write one page a day for 280 days, you pretty much got a whole book or a dissertation. The fourth thing I would recommend is to choose your peer group carefully. Now, research has shown that we have something called mirror neurons in our brain. So mirror neurons is basically what allows us to have empathy. When you're looking at someone and you see that they're tearing up and you kind of feel like you want to tear up as well, that's basically your mirror neurons telling you, hey, they're crying, maybe you should cry too. And then, that's where your emotional brain and logical brain talks like, should I cry? Should I not cry? So mirror neurons are really important because it allows you to be like your peers. It allows you to mimic people. So when you were a baby, you learned things because your mirror neurons were firing, and it allows you to observe different things and imitate them. And so having the right peer groups who are highly energized, towards accomplishing their goals, that actually helps you maintain your focus on the task at hand. So if your peers are all focused on getting the same thing done, right, you have a team that is hyper-focused and energized towards doing that, you will be hyper-focused and energized too. So if you want to change, you need to look at the people around you, and so that you can follow them as well. And this is also what Gary Vee says. When Gary Vee says, be careful of the content you're consuming, that's actually very correct, because when you consume content, right, what your brain actually is doing, it's looking at the image, your mirror neurons are firing to see what it recognizes, what it doesn't recognize, and basically you imitate that as a result. So if you look at stuff that's, prank videos or whatnot on YouTube, not saying prank videos are not good, they're great, they're funny, I watch them once in a while, but if that's all you watch, that's what YouTube's going to feed you, and that's pretty much what's going to be in your mind all the time. If you watch, on the other hand, like, motivational stuff, if you subscribe to things that are helpful to you and you actually, put the time in to watch it, it'll be good for you, right? So that's a great incentive for you to subscribe to this channel. And the last thing that I would recommend for you is to increase your self-awareness so that you know what systems to put in place to balance your conscientiousness, right? I mentioned it at the beginning of this video that trait conscientiousness is the second highest predictor of success after IQ. One thing that I would recommend is to take a personality test based on the Big Five. And pretty much there's a consensus in psychology that it's the gold standard of psychometric measurements. So there are cheap options out there which will give you general descriptors. There are websites out there, like there's HEXACO. HEXACO is a type of Big Five, and I found one and it was pretty much free because you're contributing to their data set. You just got to give them some demographic information so that they can keep doing their research and you get the benefit of some of these outcomes as well. There are cheaper versions, like there's the Jordan Peterson one, which is Understand Myself, and I think it costs like $25. And I did that one before. It's pretty solid. It gives you descriptors, different Big Five personality traits. And there's also other ones out there, like there's Hogan, and there's also Paradigm Personality Labs, which is the one that I use and which is the one that I give and I coach with. So yeah, I would highly recommend you to go and check out one of these personality tests, because one thing that I find is that there's a lot of generic videos out there that tell you to do this, do that. But the thing is, not every advice out there is suited for a person. So for example, this video is about how to increase and maintain your focus, and it's about creating systems around you and getting yourself into the optimal situation and optimal condition to get that done. However, not all the advice out there takes that into consideration. Some people might be hyper-focused, and what they actually need to do is to actually tone down that focus and schedule in spontaneous time so that they can go with the flow, so that they can increase their creativity, which is actually the topic of my next video. So if you haven't done so already, please subscribe and click the notification bell so that you will be notified when that video is available. And of course, if you like this video, like it, leave a comment below, and let me know what else you want to listen about. Take care, everybody.